I don't know when the quietness between me and Aisha became normal. It wasn't loud, it wasn't cruel, it was just still, too still, like a house where the windows were always closed. I tried, in small ways. I reminded myself that she was young, stressed, newly married, adjusting to a joint family. I gave myself so many explanations that even I stopped believing them. Some days, my biggest mistake was daring to be seen. The shift in the house. Months passed, and I learned how to enter rooms gently, how to speak softly, how to swallow questions before they formed. I never wanted to be the difficult mother-in-law. I told myself that respecting their space meant loving them, but love shouldn't feel like disappearing. One afternoon, I was in the kitchen kneading dough when I overheard Aisha talking on the phone. She didn't know I was nearby. "No, Mama, it's fine. But sometimes I feel like I have no space here. Everything I do feels watched." Her voice was tired, frustrated. I froze, hands still in the dough. A pause. "No." She doesn't say anything. She's not rude. She's just there all the time. Just there, just there. I kept kneading, even though my eyes blurred. It wasn't anger I felt. It was something softer, sadder. I hadn't realized that my presence alone had become a burden. Maybe I had been clinging too tightly to the idea of a close bond. Maybe expecting friendship so soon was unfair. Maybe I was the one who needed to step back. That evening, I knocked on their door before entering, something I hadn't done before. Habib looked up in surprise. Aisha lowered her phone. "I made tea," I said quietly. "If you want some." They both nodded politely, thanking me. Kind, distant, formal. A mother shouldn't feel like a guest in her own home, but that's exactly how I felt. Habib begins to notice. Habib wasn't blind to the shift. One night, he found me folding clothes alone in my room. "Ammi," he said, sitting beside me, "you've been quiet lately." "I'm fine." "You're not." I smiled a little. "That's the first time you paid attention in weeks." He lowered his eyes. "Is Aisha giving you a hard time?" he asked, quietly. "No." I said, because I didn't want to create distance between them. "She's adjusting, and I'm adjusting too." "But you're unhappy." It wasn't a question. It was a truth he already knew. "I'm learning," I said gently, "that when children grow up, mothers have to learn how to step aside without disappearing." Habib swallowed hard. "I don't want you to disappear." I touched his hand. "I know you don't. But intentions in reality, they're not always the same." He didn't argue. He just sat there, holding my hand like he used to as a child. And for a moment, I felt seen again. Aisha's silent changes. Despite everything, I didn't blame Aisha. Her world had changed, too. She left behind her home, her routines, her mother's presence. She was still figuring out who she was in this new life. I noticed small changes in her. She cleaned her room with care, trying to maintain her own style. She avoided arguments with Habib. She cooked small dishes for him, trying to create tiny rituals between them. Sometimes I felt like an outsider watching two people build a life together. But that's what mothers do. They watch. They guide quietly. They step back when needed. The truth is, Aisha wasn't cruel. She wasn't harsh. She wasn't disrespectful. She was simply guarded. And guarding herself meant guarding her space for me, too. The day everything shifted slightly. One warm evening, as I was cutting vegetables, Aisha walked into the kitchen. She hesitated before speaking. "Auntie," she began, then corrected herself. "I mean, Ammi, can I help?" I looked up, surprised. She rarely offered. "Of course," I said, sliding the cutting board toward her. She washed her hands and joined me. For several minutes, we worked side by side in quiet. Then, unexpectedly, she sighed softly. "Your recipes are different from my mother's," she murmured. "I'm still learning." Her tone wasn't offensive for once, just honest. I smiled. "Every home has its own taste. You'll make your own, too." She nodded, and something in her face softened, just a little. Then she said something I wasn't prepared for. "I didn't mean to make you feel unwanted." I stilled. "You didn't say anything." She stared at the onions she was chopping. Sometimes you don't have to say things to make people feel them. Her voice carried a quiet regret, something fragile. I miss my mother, she whispered. And suddenly, everything made sense. The tension, the distance, the guardedness. She wasn't pushing me away. She was grieving her old home. I reached for her hand gently. You're allowed to miss her, I said softly. This home doesn't replace the one you came from. It just becomes part of your life slowly. Aisha blinked rapidly, trying not to cry. And for the first time, I saw her vulnerability, the side she had kept hidden under silence and formality. That night, she placed a roti basket on the table and smiled at me, a small, genuine smile. It wasn't a big moment, but sometimes healing starts with something as small as sharing a kitchen, the beginning of a fragile understanding. Over the next few weeks, our interactions became slightly easier. She asked me small questions. Ammi, how much salt should I add? Ammi, how long should this simmer? Ammi, does a beeb like this? And I answered gently, never overwhelming her. We weren't close yet, not like a mother and daughter, but we were no longer strangers living under one roof. I still felt the distance, and she still had walls. But now, there was a small door in those walls, a door that might open fully someday, or maybe close again. I wasn't sure yet, but for the first time in months, I allowed myself to hope.